Hi, I'm Johnnie Seago. Today, I want to talk to you about a question that probably a lot of us have, and that is, should we allow our children, our teenagers, living at home, to read a very popular book or to watch a movie that is coming out that is very popular from the book called The Hunger Games? So today, I have my son, Teddy Seago, here, and he is going to talk with me about why we should or shouldn't read the book and see the movie. So the first question is, Teddy,
why should we read it? Absolutely.
Should we read it? Should we read it? Should I let you go see it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm very staunch supporter of The Hunger Games, and I say absolutely you should read the book. And there's a lot of reasons why. The biggest reason is this is the kind of book that makes you question the world around you. Why is that? Because Katniss, the main character, is stuck in a dystopia where the world around her is falling apart. But throughout the book, she is able to question the society she lives in. Therefore, this book is challenging your reader to question the world he lives in, to see the problems and figure out what he can do about them.
Okay, I'm all about being a critic of our environment and our culture and really, carefully looking at things. But obviously, parents, that's a little iffy for us because sometimes we say, what's the difference between being a critic and a rebel? Now, you better warn me, if I'm going to see a movie or if I'm going to let my children read a book that is going to incite rebellion, not so much. What do you think?
Do I think Katniss is a rebel?
Do I think that the book incites rebellion, or does it incite loyalty? I mean, what kind of a character is she going to be?
That's a good question. If we look back through her character and through the actions that led her to the Hunger Games, there's a lot of things that I don't want to spoil for the people who haven't read the book or haven't seen it yet. And just to say that Katniss is willing to sacrifice a lot of things in her life. And when she does have to sacrifices, and she actually does have to see the world around her, the capital is what the people are called, she has to decide if she's going to support them. And then when she sees the wrong that they're doing, the brutal sacrifices of children in the Hunger Games, then she realizes that she cannot sit aside and let the capital ruin her life as well as the lives of many others.
Okay, all right, so if it's an immoral and unjust society.
Absolutely. And we see the immoral and unjust actions of the capital, the main group of leaders, through just the very basic, the Hunger Games, what the book is named after. And I'm not going to explain what those are because I want you to read it, but in essence, they're killing children for the sake of entertainment. And it's one of the very basic immoralities that we see throughout the book. But that is very prevalent, and it's very hard for Katniss to go through.
Well, sure. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And we see throughout history lots of civilizations that have sacrificed their children for pleasure, convenience, entertainment, and what happens to those civilizations. So that always brings me back to classic cultures, classic literature.
Absolutely.
Yeah, all right. So, would you compare the capital to Rome or the falling of Rome, or are there characters in there that remind you of other classic characters?
Absolutely. I mean, you definitely can compare the capital, who is the ruler of Panem, that they are coming to a very destructive end, and it is because they're abusing their citizens. Their citizens understand that the brutality that they're going through is not moral and not just, and that's why they stand up. And therefore, you can compare it to the downfall, the last years of Rome, or the very easy connection that we've talked about before, and that you brought up, was the French right before the French Revolution. The capital, and that's the biggest one we can make a connection to. And as you read the book, you'll find out why that is so understandable. But that's just a really big one because France decided to only support the wealthy, and therefore the very poor and the middle class were left alone, and therefore they revolted. And that's exactly what this book, this dystopia, is about. Some other characters that compare, or you can see who they're like in other classical works, is Katniss is very much like Odysseus. She is very, very dedicated to getting back home. She understands the consequences she's gonna have to go through to get there, and she understands the loss. She understands why. The biggest thing that you see is she understands why she needs to get back home, and I'm not gonna spoil that either. But she understands that getting back home should be her only goal, and that is a big thing about Odysseus, because even though 10 years go by, as soon as he gets home, he realizes he has to cleanse his house and he has to save his wife. And so many times when he was with Circe or when he was with Calypso, he knew he had to get going and get back home.
So you make me think that Katniss is maybe going to do some things that we would question as moral choices.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And then also perhaps talking about Odysseus with Calypso and Circe, she has to make some relationship choices and that kind of thing. Which, of course, I think are other reasons that young adults need to read the book with their parents, talk to their parents about it.
It's good.
Make those definite classical connections like we do. All right, we'd love to hear from you and your teenagers and what you think about the book or the movie, if you've had a preview of it. Yeah. And we'd like for you to respond to us about other movies that your kiddos may be watching and books they might be reading.
And discussing.
Thanks.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.